Hello and welcome to another Bood FM experiment. Now, as we all know, Euro 2016 in France has just kicked off, and I'll be honest with you, I'm getting on a bit. I haven't had any fun since Euro 96. They always let me down. The golden generation did my head in because nothing ever happened apart from disappointment and heartache. So I'm watching it. I've got a shirt. I support my country, but I've got to be honest, I'm not that excited. What I'm more excited about is this coming Premier League season. I think we've got one of the best manager lineups we've ever seen. Mourinho, Guardiola, Klopp. I mean, we've got some cracking names with some of the managers we've already got in the league. It's exciting. Plus, with all the new TV money, everyone's got a lot of money to spend. So, I wanted to do an experiment where we have a look at who, using the power of Football Manager, is going to win this year. Who's going to win the Premier League in this coming season? Now, if you're a Football Manager fan, you probably know that the editor is quite a good tool. You can do quite a lot with the editor. Even the in-game editor you can do quite a bit with. But what you can't do is jump forward in time, pick a team up and put it where you want it in a certain competition. You can't do that. But if you're me and you spend hours and hours doing it, you can set the league up. So what I've done to make my experiment as realistic as possible is I've got the correct 3 teams relegated: Newcastle, Norwich and Aston Villa. I got the 3 correct teams promoted: Middlesbrough, Hull and Burnley. And I got the top 7 in the Premier League to finish where they finished last season. Basically, it's an experiment to see who's going to win the Premier League. Out of all these quality managers, who's going to win the battle for the BPL next season? So let's just have a quick look at how I did it. Basically, if you manipulate and do a lot of loading and saving and put a bit of work into it, you can do it. It's not the easiest thing to do, but what I've achieved is the correct teams in the league. Okay, the managers. Now I've put all the managers in the right jobs. There is one thing I've had to use a bit of creative freedom with, and in the press, I think we all know at this moment in time, Ronald Koeman is going to become Everton manager. It's not getting confirmed yet, but I think it's definitely happening. So I've put him in the Everton job, which also leaves the Southampton job open. Now, I didn't want to leave it to the computer to pick anyone, because sometimes the computer can make a poor decision. So I just went with the bookie's favourite, and that's Ronald de Boer. So he's going to be Southampton manager in my experiment. Transfer budgets. Now, what I've done is I've made a list, and I looked in the press, I've looked at all the national papers, and I've looked at teams' local press and try to find out what they're saying each team's getting to spend this year. If some of the budgets are different, I've tried to average it out at the closest one. So it might not be perfect, it might not be exact, it's not an exact science obviously, but I've tried my hardest to get it as close to as real as I possibly can, giving each manager the right amount of money to spend on his team going into this new season. With transfers, as you know, when you buy the game, it comes out in about October, November. So the first window, all them transfers are in the game. And then you get the winter update and it updates those transfers too. But the game also likes to make a few AI transfers. And I didn't want that to happen. I wanted it to be as realistic as possible. So I put every club in the Premier League and the Championship under a 1-year transfer embargo. But the odd ones slip through somehow. I think like a pre-contract where they've ended up signing at the end of the season. So when you do see some of these transfer lists, you might notice a player on there and think, why is he there? But what I've done is, as soon as I've noticed, I've gone through every team anyway. On any transfer I've seen gone through that's a computer transfer, I've sent that player straight back to where they came from. So when this experiment starts, every player is exactly where they should be at this moment in time. Also, if any players already been confirmed, like Eric Bailey to Manchester United, transfers like that, I have made them transfers and made adjustments for that. Okay, so this experiment, if you've seen the thumbnail, is mainly going to feature 7 clubs: Manchester United, Manchester City, Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, Tottenham, and of course the current champions, Leicester City. Now, we're going to start with Jose Mourinho, Manchester United. It's the team I support, but it's also the team that reportedly has the biggest budget. So, Jose Mourinho, look at his manager stats. Says it all, doesn't it? He's a great manager. He's done everything. He's done everything in the game. He likes to play a 4-2-3-1 wide. direct passing style, mental coaching style. He's got a balanced playing mentality, pressing styles, he likes to close down, marking style mixed. He doesn't sign many youth players. He could use the whole budget on one player, which would be interesting. You can see the list there for yourself. He's a great manager, and it's going to be an exciting season for all Manchester United fans. So, budget-wise, the press is saying he's getting 300 million. So, seems a bit much. But see, because he's already bought Eric Bailey, and it's looking like we're getting Ibrahimovic, I've put that budget down to 200 million to make it a bit more realistic. Next is Manchester City and Pep Guardiola. Now, he's a great manager. I mean, look at his stats. He likes to play 4-1-4-1 defensive midfielder formation. Playing styles mixed. He's got a tactical coaching style. His playing mentality is balanced. His pressing style, he likes to close down. Marking styles mixed. He won't select a substitute goalie. He likes to use a target man. He's a good manager. I mean, look at his stats. He's won a lot of trophies. Now, this is an honest observation. This isn't me being a Manchester United fan. But I do think he inherited a great side at Barcelona. And then he then went on to Bayern Munich and took over a team that had just won the treble. I don't think he's ever built a team up. Now, City are a great side still, but they need some work. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can do it, as he got the ability to do that. So it's going to be interesting to watch this year. Now, the press is saying City are getting 150 million. So that's what I'm going to give him to spend this coming season. Next on the list is Chelsea and Antonio Conte. And he's a great manager, don't get me wrong, he looks really good. He's still quite young for a manager at 47. He's got good stats. He likes to play 5-1-2-2 defensive midfielder with wing backs. His passing styles, his coaching styles, mental, playing mentality, attacking, pressing style, he likes to close down. So, he's a good manager. It's going to be interesting to see if he can cut it in the Premier League, especially a club like Chelsea, where he's going to have to be successful. And especially this year, because they had a really bad year for their standards last year. It was a bit poor, wasn't it? And the press is saying, even though Roman Abramovich is one of the richest men in the world, all I can find in the press is that Chelsea are getting a transfer budget of 80 million. Next on my list is Liverpool, and a manager I really, really like. Even though he's now Liverpool manager, I still like him, which is pretty strange for me. Jurgen Klopp. Now, he's a cracking manager, isn't he? He's done really well in Germany. I think it's going to be interesting this year to see how he does, having a full crack of the whip from the start of the season, bringing through his own players. As you can see, his stats are really, really good. He likes to play 4-4-1-1, playing styles, passing, coaching styles, mental, playing mentality, attacking, pressing style mixed, marking style mixed. Now, he's a great manager. He's a great character to have in the Premier League. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Now, the press is saying Liverpool are going to get 100 million. They're going to give him 100 million to spend. So that's what I've given him. Next on my list is Arsenal and Arsene Wenger. And, he's been the granddad of the Premier League ever since Fergie's retired. He's a great manager. People might knock him. Some of his own fans knock him. But you know what? Arsenal, they're lucky to have him, really. He's a good manager. He's won a lot of trophies. He likes to play 4-2-3-1 wide. His playing style's mixed. His coaching style's general. His playing mentality, attacking, pressing style, closing down, marking style, zonal. He likes to sign domestic-based players, uses his budget on one player. He don't really spend a lot, to be fair. But, he's a good manager. And the press is saying Arsenal, which isn't surprising this really, are going to give him 75 million to spend. Next on my list is Tottenham and Mauricio Pochettino. I really like this guy, mate. I think he's a good young manager. He's only 44, which is young for a manager. I think he did really well last year. They kind of bottled it at the end of the year. But, I think give him some money, especially when they're getting this new stadium as well, which is quite exciting for Spurs fans. I think this guy's going to develop into one of the world's best managers. I do like him a lot. He likes to play a 4-2-3-1 wide. His playing style's passing. His coaching style's defending. His playing mentality, attacking. Pressing style, closing down. Marking style, mixed. He likes to sign domestic-based players. He likes to sign lower league players too, from what it says. So, do you know what? He's a good manager. The Spurs board have said that even though they're building this new stadium, it's not going to affect their transfer spending. And they've said they're going to give him around the 75 million mark. So that's what he's getting. Last but not least, it's Leicester City and Claudio Ranieri. Now, this guy is a legend. I like him, and I was really, really chuffed that he's finally become a champion because he's a brilliant character. I loved him when he was at Chelsea. I really felt sorry for him when he got the sack because I thought he did quite well in a Chelsea side that was pushing for Champions Leagues when they didn't have the money to. So, I'm happy that he's back in the Premier League. And, what a great story that was last year. It was fantastic to see Leicester win the Premier League. Just changes it up a bit, doesn't it? It's just really, really good. Now, his stats aren't as great as some of the others, but they're not that bad. He's still a good manager. He likes to play 4-4-2. His playing style's long. Coaching style, defending. He's Italian. Playing mentality, attacking though. His pressing style, closing down. His marking style's mixed. He won't select the sub-keeper either. But you know what? He's a good manager. But from what the press is saying, he's only going to be given 50 million to spend. Now, the press are also saying he could be losing some of his star players. So if he does, for big money, will he be given that money on top of his 50 million? We'll have to wait and see. It's the 1st of September and the first transfer window is over. And here we are on Manchester United's page. Now, Jose Mourinho has brought in 8.67 million. Got rid of a lot of players. He's also brought in quite a few players and spent 125 million. He's spent it on a bit of youth there, to be fair. He's raided his old club for a player. So, he's definitely putting his own stamp here on the team. So it's going to be interesting to see how Jose Mourinho and Manchester United do this season. Next is Manchester City, and Pep Guardiola has brought in 24.67 million. Got rid of a few players, cut quite a lot of players, brought in about 5 players and spent 64.85 million. He's done all right there. He's bought some English players, bought some good young players too. So, it's going to be, are they the players that City need to give them that little push towards a title? We'll have to wait and see. Next is Chelsea and Conte, and he's recouped 69.59 million. He's sold a few players there, sold one to United, and he's brought in quite a few players, so he's definitely put his own stamp in. He's spent 108 million, so he's definitely used some of the money he's brought in, added it to his transfer budget, but he's bought some really good players there, so it's going to be interesting, this. I mean, if these are players that can put Chelsea back to where they belong, because they are a top 4 club. It's going to be interesting to see if his magic rubs off on him. And here we are with Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp. Now, he's brought in 30.8 million, sold quite a lot of players, cut quite a lot of players, and he's brought in 6 players, spending 61.25 million. First season now where he can have a really good go. He's bought some good players there by the look of it. It's going to be interesting. Can Jurgen Klopp make Liverpool a title challenger where they haven't really been a title challenger for a long, long time? And here we are with Arsenal and the granddad of the Premier League, Wenger. And he's also brought in about 20.87 million. Got rid of quite a few players there. Spent 72.7 million. He's spent some money on some players there. He's got a good striker there from Inter Milan. Spent some good money on him. Spent some good money on Felipe Anderson from Lazio too. So, Arsenal were a good side last year, so maybe these 2 lads are what he needs to win a title. Let's wait and see. Here we are in Spurs and Pochettino. He's also brought in 52.5 million. Got rid of quite a few players, cut quite a few players. I think he sold Eric Dyer for quite a lot of money to Manchester City. He spent 66.25 million, so he's not really spent a lot of money there with what he's brought in and spent. It's equalled itself out. But he's brought some good players, not a lot of names I recognise if I'm completely honest. So it's going to be interesting to see if these are the players that can push Spurs on from the last season's 3rd place finish and get them to a title. Now here we are at Leicester. Now he hasn't actually brought any players in. That player you see on the in list is one of the ones that sneaked through. Manchester United had bought him at the end of the season, so I've sent him straight back. So he is a Leicester player at this moment in time. So he hasn't spent a penny. But he also hasn't lost any of his key players. So he's sticking with his champions. Is that good enough? Is that going to help him win the title again? I don't know. I think you should always invest. You should always move forward. And here's the Premier League after 3 games. And as you can see, the champions are down the bottom. Not doing very well there. Maybe you should have spent some money. Chelsea are at the top, which is interesting. We've got Palace and Watford up there at the minute, which is also interesting. Jose is in 4th with Manchester United. Spurs are 5th. Arsenal 7th with Liverpool and City following them. So the season's only just started, so I'm not going to judge it from 3 games. There's a long, long way to go. So let's travel into the future to the end of the second transfer window. Have a look at who the managers have bought, if the managers are still in a job, and how well they're doing in all their competitions. Here we are on the managers page, and before we look at anything, just looking at who's still in jobs or not. And I think the main one to see is that Pochettino has been sacked at Spurs and replaced by Flores, who did a great job at Watford last year. Obviously Klopp still at Liverpool, Mourinho still at United, Eddie Howe still at Bournemouth, Pardew still at Palace. Rafa Benitez is now Hull manager. I did put Rafa at the Newcastle job in the Championship, but he's obviously jumped to first chance to get back in the Premier League. Sam Allardyce is still at Sunderland. Mazzarari, I think that's how you say his name, he's still at Watford. Pulis is still at West Brom. Swansea's still got their manager, that's his name there, you can read it for yourself. Burnley've still got Sean Dyche. Wenger's still at Arsenal. Conte's still at Chelsea. Koeman still at Everton. Ranieri obviously. Guardiola. Fernando Herrero is now at Middlesbrough, which means Karanka's gone. Also, David Moyes is at Southampton, which means Ronald de Boer must have had a shocking start to the season, and he's been replaced by David Moyes. Brendan Rodgers is at Stoke, which means Mark Hughes got the sack. And also, Bilic has gone from West Ham and been replaced by Roberto Martinez. Here we are on Manchester United and Jose Mourinho's page. He's bought 4 players in the window. He spent quite a lot of money. He spent 209 million now in total. So he's gone over his budget, but he has brought some money in. He sold a player to Everton there. He's also let Ashley Young go out on loan. But he's bought Higuain, so he must have felt like he needed some more attacking power. So he's still in 4th. He's still in a Champions League spot. And there's still half the season to go. But he's spent a lot of money. And it's definitely his team and the amount of players he's brought in. So it's going to be interesting to see how well he does. Here we are with Manchester City and Pep Guardiola. He's also spent a bit of money, brought 4 players in. He's got Aaron Cresswell from West Ham. He's been a good player on this year's Football Manager. Spent 26 million on him. He's now spent 130 million in total. He's got rid of a few players. Sold Jovetic to Inter. He's not doing bad. He's second in the league, so he's got a title challenge here. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can push Arsenal all the way. Here we are with Chelsea and Conte, and he's not really spent much. He's brought 2 players in. He's got Sam Johnson from United for 425k, obviously as a backup keeper. He's got rid of a few more players. He's got rid of a lot of players this year. But, they're 3rd in the league, which is a huge improvement on last season. So, can Chelsea go all the way? We'll have to wait and see. Here we are with Liverpool and Klopp, and it's 3 in, 3 out. He's definitely putting his own stamp on the team. They're 6th in the league, which isn't the greatest, but it's not that bad. Don't think he's going to put a title challenge together, but he could do well in a cup. We'll have to wait and see. Next, it's Arsenal and Wenger, and he's brought 2 players in. He's brought Lucas in from Atletico B for 20 million. He's let 1 player go. The top of the league, so he's doing well. It's going to be interesting to see if he can stay there and win a title. They haven't won one for a while. He's doing well as Wenger, so you've got to be pretty happy if you're an Arsenal fan. Okay, so here we are with Spurs, and Flores, who is the new manager, has made 2 of his own signings. Spent a bit of money, bought a player from Barcelona, 1 from Juventus. Got rid of a few players too. So Spurs have spent just over 83 million. They're lying in 14th, which ain't good. Probably the reason why Pochettino has been sacked, which is mental really. I didn't think that would happen. But they brought in a good manager who did well with Watford last year. So can he get Spurs back up the league with half a season to go? Here we are with Leicester City and Claudio Ranieri, and he still hasn't spent a penny. Baffles me really. I thought he'd buy someone, but they haven't bought anybody, which is strange. He's let a player go to Aston Villa. But maybe if he'd have bought some players, they'd be higher than 12th to be pushing for that title again. But they've not done that. Here we are. It's the 1st of Feb. 2017, and the Premier League looks like this. Arsenal are at the top by 6 points, followed by City, Chelsea. United are still in 4th. Liverpool are 6th. Leicester have gone up to 12th, so that's alright. But Tottenham, they're in 14th. That's shocking. That's poor. So let's have a look at the other competitions quickly, and we're at the Champions League, Group A, and Leicester got through their group, became second with 10 points. Next is Manchester City's group, Group B, and they won their group, only losing one game, getting 15 points. Next is Arsenal's group, Group G, and they also got through, went top with Milan and Monaco behind them. Having a really good season, Arsenal. And next is Group H and Tottenham, and they failed to qualify. They've ended up third, so they're in the Europa League, but it's another disappointment in their already disappointing season. And next is Manchester United in the Europa League in Group F. They won their group, played 6, won 6, done very well. Now let's have a look at the domestic cup competitions, and Manchester United were knocked out of the FA Cup in the 4th round by West Ham and a George Hurst hat-trick. Moving on to the League Cup, and Jose Mourinho has got them to the final, and they will be playing Sunderland on the 26th of February. So it'll be interesting to see if he wins that and can bring in some silverware in his very first season. Manchester City are through to the 5th round after beating Bournemouth 3-0 in the FA Cup. In the League Cup, they were knocked out in the 4th round by Manchester United 1-0. Chelsea are going to an FA Cup 4th round replay against Blackburn after drawing 0-0. And they were knocked out the Capital Cup in the 3rd round by Newcastle after an injury time winner. Liverpool are through to the 5th round after beating Cardiff 2-1 in the FA Cup. And they were knocked out by Manchester United in the Capital One Cup in the 3rd round. Arsenal were knocked out of the FA Cup in the 3rd round by Reading. Bit of a shocker, really. It was also knocked out the Capital One Cup in the 3rd round by Hull 2-1. Now, he's got to say that is disappointing, but coming out of the cup competitions early has probably helped him go on a league run, and that's probably why they're first in the Premier League. Spurs were knocked out in the 3rd round of the FA Cup by Aston Villa, Championship team. They're not having a great year, are they, Spurs? And they were knocked out of the Capital One Cup in the quarter-final by Manchester United. Manchester United are on a great run here, beating some big teams. Leicester were knocked out of the 3rd round too. There's been a lot of clubs going out in the 3rd round. They were beaten 3-1 by Swansea. And they were knocked out in the 3rd round too of the Capital One Cup by Sunderland. Let's jump to the end of the season. Let's see who wins the Premier League. Let's see if anyone can win any silverware. And let's see who finishes the 2016-17 season still in a job. Now, before we look at who won what, just got to say, Arsene Wenger has retired at the end of the 2016-17 season. But as you can probably see at the top there, he went out on top, finishing first, 13 points clear of Manchester United, who finished second. Not a bad showing for Mourinho. Beating his rival, Pep Guardiola, Manchester City, who finished third. Chelsea finished fourth, which is good, back in the Champions League. Liverpool finished fifth. Tottenham finished 8th, which is good because they were in 14th last year. And in 14th is Leicester, who haven't spent any money, so I'm not too surprised by that. And Everton won the FA Cup, beating West Ham in the final 3-1. That's interesting, so it's just nice to see. We highlighted 7 clubs at the start of this experiment, and it's just nice that one team that we didn't highlight mainly, which is Everton, and Ronald Koeman, he's come in his first year and won some silverware for Everton. Jose Mourinho has also come in his first year and won silverware for Manchester United, beating Sunderland in the League Cup final 4-1. And Jose Mourinho has done it again. He's come in his first year and done a double, winning the Europa League, beating Monaco 2-0 in the final. One of his Chelsea players scoring in the final too. So, Jose has done very well in his first year, second in the league and 2 trophies. And unfortunately, the big one, the Champions League, there was no English teams in the final. Real Madrid beat Juventus on penalties. We'll have a quick look, see if anyone came close, got into a semi-final. And no English teams even made it to the semi-final. So, not the greatest year for English teams in the Champions League. So, that's the end of my experiment. It is just a bit of fun. I just wanted to try and get as accurate as I could and just use Football Manager 2016 to try and predict what will happen next year, because I'm excited for this coming season. Now, this doesn't mean this is going to happen in real life. We all know that. But it's just fun to see in it. It's fun to have a look at how these managers, who they might buy, and how they might do in competitions. And it was nice to see Arsenal win the Premier League. And Wenger retired. He went out on top. Jose Mourinho came in, did what he usually does, buys a few players, spends quite a lot of money, wins you a couple of trophies. Chelsea got back up there. Leicester went back down to the bottom. Spurs lost the manager, got a new manager, down the bottom of the league, and ended up getting back up near the top. Jurgen Klopp did an okay job. Disappointing in the Champions League that we got no English teams even to the semi-final. But you know what? It was just a bit of fun. So I hope you enjoyed my experiment. I'm Bood FM. If this is the first video you've ever seen with me in it, please check out my other stuff. I feel like I've got a good series with Stockport County, trying to get them back in the league. I've also done another experiment video with Manchester United where I compared Mourinho to Louis van Gaal. It's quite a good video, I think. So yeah, thanks for taking the time to watch this. It really does mean a lot. Feel free to subscribe to me. It'd make my day. I hope you have a nice day. So take care, and I'll see you later.